Campaign for Uyghurs, which is an organization that fights for the human rights and democratic freedoms of Uyghurs. We're based out of Washington, D.C. And I myself actually lived in China for about 10 years. So I actually personally became aware of what was happening to the Uyghurs while I was living in China, and kind of seeing some of the discrimination and atrocities that they had started to face a few years ago. So when I moved back to the United States, I started working with Campaign for Uyghurs because I share the belief that I should do everything in my power to help stop these crimes against humanity. So I'm very, very excited to be here with you today. I think that it's very wonderful and inspiring that young people like yourselves have decided to learn more about these issues and to use your voices to help to change the situation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we can start our interviewing. Who would like to go first with the first question? You can raise your hand. The first one is always a hard one. Okay, you can raise your hand to ask your question. I'll just call out your name. Yeah, Zed?
How are you raising awareness on the problem?
Well, that's a great question. There are several ways that we do that. Right now, because of the pandemic, with so many people being at home and us unable to do in-person rallies or in-person meetings, we use social media a lot. So for a lot of you, I'm sure you're very comfortable using social media. That actually is an extremely effective means of raising awareness about these situations. And we're doing that through a lot of different avenues, of course. We do a lot of online presentations and interviews with different grassroots groups to raise awareness. But we also try to get creative when we share graphic images. We use Instagram. We have actually a lot of youth activists that film videos, even using some of these apps like TikTok or things where they can film videos talking about the genocide and use their own voice to communicate about them. So we like to use many different networks. A lot of it is just letting people know how they personally are involved in these issues. So a lot of people are not aware that, for example, a lot of the products that we buy, a lot of the companies that we're very familiar with are actually complicit in using Uyghur slave labor. So a big part of raising awareness, I think, is making a personal connection for people that this is not some thing that's happening far away, that is far removed from them. This is something that they're personally very connected to.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Next question.
Do you know anybody who was held in these camps, in the concentration camps?
Yes, unfortunately, if you ask any Uyghur that's living in diaspora, they will have stories about missing relatives or missing family members. And we actually do have one camp survivor that's living here in the United States. There are some others that are located in Turkey and in Europe. But there is a woman living here in the United States, and her name is Zumrat Duat, and she has had a very interesting experience that she's really had a lot of courage to start raising her voice and share. And she actually has done a few interviews about this. So if you guys are interested, then I will send some links for you guys to check it out. But she had the experience of being in the camps, and unfortunately also was forcibly sterilized. So she has a lot of personal testimony that she can share about some of the atrocities that are happening to Uyghurs. She was released because her husband is a foreign citizen. So most of the people we know that have come out of the camps and come to the West or had means to share about their experience have been either had foreign citizenship themselves, a lot of them were Kazakh citizens, or their spouse was a foreign citizen. And so the Chinese government released them. So if you're interested, her testimony is really incredibly powerful. It's very hard to listen to. It's very heartbreaking, but she's doing the important work of sharing her story here. And she did, because of speaking out, face continued loss even after they left China, because her father was actually detained. She believes it might be because she was sharing what happened, and he ended up passing away. She believes in police custody, although no one gave her confirmation of specifics. So she has suffered immensely, and she's a very, very courageous person.
Okay, next question. Who wants to go next? Yeah, Zed?
Why do you think they're not showing this in the news?
I think there are a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, I think that China has a lot of influence even on foreign media that a lot of people are not aware about. Part of it too initially is because it's very hard to get confirmation or information out of China. Their internet is censored, information is very tightly controlled, and so the news of this genocide has really just continued to slowly leak out. Actually, in about the last 2 weeks, I think I've seen more media coverage of this than I have in a long time. And that's interesting. It's a good thing. It's good that awareness is being raised, but it has been too slow. There is a tendency, I think, a lot of times for people to discount witness testimony, and China has spent a lot of money and a lot of effort running a disinformation campaign and changing the narrative about how they present these things. For example, when we first started seeing and hearing about the concentration camps being built, China denied that they existed. When satellite imagery came out that confirmed that these were popping up, they then changed their story again and said that, oh, well, these are just vocational training centers, they're just schools. So then we had leaked documents come out that confirmed that they were purchasing mass orders of handcuffs and pepper spray and things that don't belong in a school. So when they were confronted with that evidence, they said they kind of shifted it a little bit and said, well, of course, you know, we still have to maintain security concerns. And they have kind of shifted their narrative continually and spent a lot of money on propaganda that they actually run in the West and in other countries, including to Islamic countries. And so they present this as either preventing extremism or helping with the poverty problem, and they kind of shift their story, shift the narrative according to which audience they're talking to and what's convenient for them to say at the moment. So I think the media has been slow to pick up on it because China has had a lot of influence on things and has done a long-standing job of trying to lie about what's going on. And so really most of the information that we've started to see getting more attention in the media is because of the very, very, very long and hard work of brave activists and of people actually within China. Some of them we don't know who they are still, who are leaking out these government documents. And so we've had several leaks happen, and we're very, very grateful to that individual. We don't know who it is, but there are people within China that are obviously concerned with what's going on and helping get that information out there. So really for all of us, it's just continuing to share it, continuing to encourage media outlets to give more coverage to this, and to really call out when we see people avoiding speaking about these atrocities because of Chinese money's influence. That's another big one.
I mean, that's really, moving that there are people, as you said, we don't even know who they are. And the risks that they have taken to leak that information out, to bring it out so it can reach us. And now we have to do our part. They have done theirs as much as they could. And now we really need to do our part in raising, as being the loudspeakers for that, raising our voices and helping it reach more and more people.
Yes.
Maybe Mumtahina, you had a question earlier that you can ask. This might be a good point for that question about the Muslim countries.
Oh, okay. So I was reading an article, and it said that there are a lot of Muslim majority countries that are actually supporting these concentration camps. So I just wanted to ask, why do you think they are supporting it?
That's a really good question. So I think that there are several reasons for that as well. One is, like I mentioned, that for a lot of these Islamic countries, they are also victims of China's disinformation campaign. So in a lot of cases, people in general don't really know what's going on, particularly if they're not familiar with China and how the Chinese government operates and kind of some of their suppressive policies. They kind of fall into whatever China's narrative on it is a lot of times. This is actually very important, and we think that advocacy efforts need to be increased, particularly in a lot of Arabic-speaking countries, because China has been really focusing on Arabic language propaganda, and we've actually seen cases recently where they are advertising in Arabic for halal organ transplants from some hospitals in larger cities in China. And it's very interesting if you read some of the research that has been done about this, because these hospitals will advertise halal organ transplants. There's a very, very short waiting time for this. And meanwhile, we can currently have Uyghurs being required to have their DNA banked. And so it's all kind of combining to be this extremely concerning thing, because halal organs, where do they get those in China? And where can they get them so easily that people don't even need to wait longer than a week in some cases? And so we do think that Chinese money is also part of it. We see, for example, with the Belt and Road Initiative, Pakistan, for example, a lot of countries do stand to benefit economically from economic relationships with China. And so Chinese money does have a lot of influence. So it's a very tricky issue, but we definitely do need to have more awareness from Muslim majority countries and more willingness to stand on the side of their Uyghur Muslim brothers and sisters and to stand up for them. Because I think what a lot of people don't understand is that this will be exported. It won't stop with the Uyghurs. What China's doing in terms of maintaining a surveillance police state is very frightening, in that they are starting to export this technology. And now we see that the persecution is starting to move beyond just Uyghurs. The Hui Muslims in China are also starting to face increased pressure, increased persecution. And we really see that China in general is committing a war. They're carrying out a war on religion in general. They don't want any sort of thing that threatens their place in people's lives. In a sense, the Chinese Communist Party wants to be the only authority in people's lives. They want to be God. They want to hold that place for people. And so this is something that we need Muslim majority countries to be more aware of, how China is specifically carrying out a war on Islam. You know, they are stating publicly that they need to rewrite the Holy Quran, that women, you know, cannot wear hijab, that you can't speak Arabic, you can't study Arabic, you can't pray, you can't grow a beard, your children can't be named an Islamic name. And so when we have organizations like the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, they made a statement last year that was very disappointing, just saying that they felt that China was safeguarding the religious freedom of Muslims in China, which is absolutely preposterous. And we actually are lobbying for them to request that they be granted unfiltered access into China so that they can see for themselves that is the farthest thing from the truth. China is not protecting or safeguarding religious freedoms for anyone, and especially for Muslims in China. They are waging a war on Islam.
Tariq, you had a question more on those lines, I think, about the abuses?
Oh yeah. So I wanted to know exactly like what type of human rights, like, you know, common, like general human rights does China break by doing these? Like, as you mentioned, I think they took in pepper spray and tried to reform the religion as how they want the Uyghurs to believe in the concentration camps. What else goes on in there that we don't know?
That's a really good question. So based on witness testimonies that we have had and from victims, they do undergo physical torture in some instances. We have had reports from women who were in the camp saying that they saw people come back from being interrogated with fingernails missing, bleeding, that people were given unknown medications. When they were given them, people described that their mental state would go fuzzy. For women, they were also given injections that stopped them from menstruating. In some cases, women were forcibly sterilized, forced to undergo abortions, forced to take birth control and have IUD devices inserted. There's actually been a recent study published about this by Dr. Adrian Zenz, in which he takes Chinese data, government data, and analyzes it and basically looks at the fact that the birth rate among Uyghurs has absolutely plummeted in the last few years. And in some cases to 90%, a 90% drop in the birth rate. So this does meet one of the conditions of genocide. They're preventing births. They have physical, mental torture going on. And aside from that, even just things like Uyghurs are not allowed to travel. They're not allowed to carry passports. In many cases, they're not allowed to speak to their family members. If you call a relative abroad, you can be thrown into the concentration camps. So even for people who are outside of the camps, we have reports of women who are experiencing potential just sexual abuse because they have a program where they're moving Chinese Communist Party cadres into homes with Uyghur families to supervise them. In many cases, these women's husbands, fathers, relatives are in the camps, and so this makes them vulnerable to abuse. We do have reports of women being raped in the camps and beaten. And so really it's very hard to know at what level all of this is happening, but based on what has been told us by witnesses and the data that we have that's all from the Chinese government, a lot of times you'll hear China making these accusations that people are making things up. Most researchers are taking their research directly from leaked documents. This is what the Chinese government has said. This is what their data itself reveals. And so all number of atrocities. And so the fact that anyone can really look at that and defend it in any way, shape, or form is really horrifying.
Yeah, and I don't know if everybody caught that earlier. You mentioned China advertising organs.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can talk a bit about what that really means, like where the organs are coming from.
Yes. So to lay it out a little more plainly, China does have this record of forced organ harvesting. And in the past, there have been many reports done with other religious groups, in particular Falun Gong. It's considered a cult by the Chinese government. And so they've actually had a lot of research done on this as well. But in the past, the Chinese government has come under a lot of criticism for what has been revealed to be them harvesting organs from prisoners against their will. And so it's very, very horrifying. And China really hasn't had a lot of accountability for that action. So now we see that they have developed it to the point that they've figured out that they can advertise to Arabic-speaking buyers, essentially, that they can have halal organs. So this means organs that are coming from Muslims because they don't drink alcohol or eat pork. So the only place that they would be able to get those organs would be from Uyghurs or Hui. It's most likely it's Uyghurs because China is carrying out DNA testing. It's mandatory, and they have a record of everyone's DNA, blood types, everything. And so it is the belief of many in the international community that they are harvesting those organs from Uyghur prisoners, possibly in the camps.
So the buyers do realize that they are doing that.
It's really not, it's really not something I can state with certainty that they know or not, because it's advertised in Arabic and it's taking place in a fancy hospital. One of the predominant reports was featuring a hospital in Tianjin, which is a very large modern city in China. I think for some people, they don't know enough. They don't have the knowledge maybe to put it together. Although I somewhat question that. I can't attest whether or not they knew. I would question someone's judgment if they're going to China and getting an organ transplant with China's shady record on that issue. But it's hard for us to know for certain whether they know or not.
So it could be some story that has been told to them that they just don't realize. Yeah. And we know in Arab countries, and a lot of Arab countries, the media is not free necessarily. So it's easy to sell a propaganda there without any kind of checks. Mm-hmm. Riyasat, do you want to ask your questions?
Yeah, awesome, man. So we're talking about like all the things that's been going on in the camps, and I feel like I really sympathize with those going through these difficulties. But how exactly did you guys start your program?
Well, I can tell a little bit about the story with our executive director. This is not the first Uyghur rights organization. There's some other great ones as well. The Uyghur Human Rights Project being one of them. The World Uyghur Congress is the global organization that advocates for Uyghurs. So we do want to make the point when I'm talking about the history of our organization that we're not the only one, and that actually for decades, Uyghurs have been experiencing abuse under the Chinese regime. It's just that it has developed to this level in the last few years of concentration camps. So there's a lot of things we could talk about with history and the discrimination that Uyghurs have faced for decades, but this is at an all new level. So our organization was actually founded by Rushan Abbas, and she actually was originally involved as one of the student protesters at Xinjiang University in the 1980s. So I don't know if anyone's heard of the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. That's an important historical moment, but this was a pro-democracy protest that was kind of coinciding with that big event in Beijing. They also had pro-democracy protests in other parts of China. And so our executive director actually was one of the original student founders of that movement. After that, understandably, she was encouraged by her father to leave China just because the Chinese government really sought out the students that were involved in those protests. And so she came to the United States and has been a US citizen for a long time now. But she actually founded the organization a few years ago. We're a relatively new one in response to what was happening in connection with the concentration camps specifically. So she'd been an activist for a long time, but she actually watched her husband's family all disappear into the camps. He lost contact with all his brothers and sisters and parents. And so she started publicly speaking out and advocating. And as a result of her speaking out, in particular, she spoke on a panel at the Hudson Institute in 2018, September of 2018. And 6 days later, her sister and her aunt, who are her only family members that were left in East Turkestan, as Uyghurs prefer to call the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, those two family members disappeared, abducted by the Chinese government. Her aunt later did actually reappear, but her sister, she hasn't had word from since 2018. And the Chinese government has never spoken about why she was taken. She was not particularly religious. She had no connections with any groups overseas. She's not the typical prisoner that gets taken into the camps. Normally there's some sort of reason that they'll hold them for connections to abroad or certain religious practices, but she didn't really fit the mold on any of those. So it is our belief that she was taken as direct retaliation for her activism. So that's kind of a little bit about why the organization got founded. It was basically in response to what we saw as just these horrible building atrocities. There's been discrimination for decades, but to take it to the level of concentration camps and what we see happening now, which is genocide, is something that's recently really increased quite a bit under Xi Jinping, who's the current chairman of China. It is worth pointing out too, I don't know if anyone's heard about the 2009 Urumqi riots, as they're called by China, and a lot of the Western media picked up on that as well, but it's actually more accurate to call that the Urumqi massacre. And that was something that the government, I think, felt comfortable doing after the US's war on terror. That's when they sort of changed their narrative to start shifting more towards labeling Uyghurs as terrorists. And so by 2009, there was actually an incident in a city where some Uyghurs were murdered in a factory, and protests broke out in Urumqi, which is the capital there, as a response. They wanted the government to look into these murders, and the government wasn't doing anything about it. So it actually started as a peaceful student protest, and as is typical behavior and what we've seen historically with China, the police came in and got violent. And so if you haven't heard anything about that, it's worth reading about, but just know that most of the Western media actually just took China's narrative with it without actually doing the research about what had actually happened. So it is more accurate to call it the Urumqi massacre, not the Urumqi riots.
Okay, yeah, Zed?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like usually world organizations such as the UN, they take action for such things, but they haven't really taken any actions towards solving this. So, do you know the reason why?
China holds a very influential seat on the UN. In fact, they were given a seat on the UN Human Rights Council panel recently. So unfortunately, that effectively cripples the UN in a lot of ways to do things. The fact that China was given that position is really horrific, to be honest. And actually, there is an interesting case going on right now of a whistleblower with the UN who actually revealed that they were handing over the names of Uyghur activists who are planning to testify at one of the council events with the UN, and they gave those names over to China. So there have been several instances in the last few years where we've kind of seen that the UN is in many ways in the pocket of China, essentially. We're still petitioning them to do the right thing, and we want to continue to put pressure on them that as the UN, this is absolutely something that they have a responsibility to address and to do more about. But we also have to bear in mind that unfortunately, because China was given these positions, that it effectively cripples the UN to deal with a lot of things.
Okay, next question. Yeah, Iram?
So far, what are your like accomplishments or like achievements that helped the Uyghur Muslims so far?
One thing that we do think is a great first step is successfully getting the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act passed in the United States. That was actually the result of years of hard work on the part of Uyghur activists. I do think it's unfortunate that in a lot of ways it became very politicized, and I think that people want to turn, whenever you bring up Uyghurs and actions that are taken, they want to turn it into, well, why is the US doing that? You know, the US does not have a perfect human rights record. And we actually think that's really a shame, because we wish that it wasn't just the US addressing these issues, but the US is the economy that's most powerful to take on China right now. So we think that that's a good first step. We do hope that other countries will also follow and enact similar legislation. So basically that when that passed and was signed into law, actually the US government has taken some fairly swift action to sanction the Chinese government officials that orchestrated some of this. And so that is a good first step, but there's a lot more that's needed. So that was one of our big successes, but we're reluctant to celebrate too much because it's really been a long process. And anything that happens, while it's great, it's still kind of like, it's late. This action is all late, unfortunately, because we already have millions of people that are in concentration camps and millions more in literal slavery. So I will also kind of add on to that, that we do have some other legislation in the US that's coming up. The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act is something that currently needs co-sponsors. So if you guys want something to do, contact your legislators, ask them to co-sponsor that bill. It's also a really important one to address US companies and corporations' complicity in using Uyghur slave labor. So that's very important, but that is a good first step. So we always want to applaud where governments do make good decisions. Right now, the Canadian Parliament is also having a special hearing on what's happening with Uyghurs. And so we're very hopeful that there will be some concrete actions taken as a result of that as well.
And do you think the world is like more, this is a good opportunity because of the COVID and the politics of today with China to put more force in this issue? The governments are probably more likely to take a stand right now.
Yes, I think that this was actually a big wake-up call for the world. In my opinion, these things are all connected. China's government, and I can attest to this as someone who lived there for a long time, that's their policy with everything, to suppress information. They do not have open internet. They don't have the open share of information within their country. They lie to their citizens. They brainwash their citizens. And then in addition to this, we see that with COVID, that was the world's big wake-up call, that they did suppress the information about a virus. And they hid that information from going out to the world when it should have. And they punished their own whistleblowers in China. And that is the reality. And they've continued to hide information about the outbreak and not release accurate numbers. And so I think this has been a big wake-up call for the international community. It obviously has cost a lot of money, and you know, that's the reality. Like, countries pay attention when it affects their economies, but it also lets them know that a country that can lie about something like a pandemic and cause so much destruction and death and economic loss to the entire world, of course, also has no qualms about lying about other things. So I think for a lot of people, this has been kind of a moment of it clicking for them that, oh, China is probably not telling the truth about what's happening with the Uyghurs. And with a lot of situations we see with Hong Kong, they broke an international agreement. In general, they have no qualms about lying. And so in that regard, I think people are starting to realize that it is costly in many ways to continue to have this business as usual relationship with China. So it's kind of all connected, and it is a big wake-up call for the world. I think that this is who China's government is at its core.
Anybody else has a question? Okay, Zed. Sorry, Julie, I know we asked you for 30 minutes. We're already over.
It's
okay.
okay.
Are you okay with time?
Yes, I'm very happy to answer anything I can.
Is there anything like we can do? Or like, is it like near impossible to actually stop the problem?
Well, I guess I'm an eternal optimist in that I do believe the truth always comes out. And so, yes, I believe there's a lot we can do. Of course, it's very hard work and it's very slow in a lot of ways, but it's very, very important that we continue to do this work, because when we look at things in history that happened, and the amount of regret that gets expressed, particularly by the international community after the fact, we know that if we actually want, you know, society to improve and for people to learn from history's mistakes, that we need to take action. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Of course, contacting your legislators is really, really important, especially as youth. Using your voice to let them know that you expect them to take action on this is really, really powerful. And just continuing to share with other people. It is still really shocking that there are so many people across the globe who have no idea who the Uyghurs are. They have no idea what's happening. They have no idea a lot of things about the situation. So using social media, we have wonderful youth activists that do things like film videos. If you, I don't know if anyone has seen the one with a young lady who is doing makeup tutorial videos, and as she does it, she talks about the Uyghur genocide. So using your creativity, using your gifts to share awareness are incredibly important. You can also start chapters at your schools, at any faith organizations that you have, you know, asking them to do presentations, to raise awareness, ask them to get involved with you, you know. Ask your school to start a chapter or host a presentation, you know, ask your local mosque or a church or anywhere to host something bringing awareness to this event. And then also, in addition, I would encourage people, I think people think it's unrealistic, but to try not to buy things that are made in China, particularly that are manufactured in East Turkestan, because if they're manufactured there, they most definitely are connected to human rights abuses. And the Australian Strategic Policy Institute is a good place to look on their website. They did a report on the companies that are complicit in Uyghur slave labor. You can start there. Unfortunately, they're all big brands that we know and probably use, but it is a good step to write to those companies and let them know that you can't be buying their products while this is going on. We do have legislation coming up to address that, but it's actually way more powerful if consumers take it into their hands and make that change happen. And I just want to encourage everyone too, that with the things that we see going on across the world and here in the United States with the Black Lives Matter movement, we know that this is a time that people have justice, the ideas of justice on their mind and on their hearts. And so it's actually a really important and powerful time to talk to them about these issues and how, hey, justice, you know, here or in wherever respective country you're in is absolutely important. But justice is also this concept that how we're connected to these things across the globe, because we do live in a global society. And so the products that we purchase potentially are involved in literal slavery. And we see how with the Black Lives Matter movement, slavery and the effects, the consequences of that continues to affect society today and continues to have this stain on history. And so we know that we don't want to be involved in literal slavery that's going on today in any form either. So I would just encourage you to do those things. You can, there's some great petitions online that you can sign and share, including ones to boycott the 2022 Olympics that Beijing's hosted. They absolutely should not be allowed to host the Olympics. That's absolutely horrific and completely against the spirit of the Olympic Games. So you guys can check some of those out as well, share them, get your friends to sign and share, and just raise awareness so that we continue to leverage with all the things and all the information that's coming out and the images of Uyghurs being herded onto trains. That image has really gone viral in the last week. It's actually a video from last year, but this is the time people are talking about it. So just continuing to leverage that momentum is really, really important.
Right, I didn't realize it was from last year. I did see that suddenly in news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you mentioned something about a legislation coming up as
Yes.
well.
Yes. So we have the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. So that has not passed yet. It's still in committee, and they need co-sponsors. So you can contact your Congress representatives and your senators and ask them to co-sponsor the bill. I believe we actually heard just today that Senator Hawley here in the United States is also going to be working on some additional legislation that is going to actually fine corporations that are not able to prove that their supply chain does not use forced labor. So we'll have several things that are coming up, but for now, the big one is that Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act.
And do you believe that makes an impact, people writing to the politicians?
I do. Because, you know, we actually, when the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act passed, it had bipartisan, almost completely unanimous, save for one person. It was passed almost unanimously. And that's really incredible in today's political climate. We don't see that very often on anything. So I do believe that people's voices really have made an enormous difference, and at least making their legislators pay attention to this issue, even when a lot of the general public doesn't. So it's definitely important.
Right. Great. So just to end on a hopeful note, and to assert that you believe that these children, teenagers, can make a difference, and there is hope, there is an impact they can make in this issue. Obviously, we can't save them right now. It's a long-term thing, but.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so thankful that you guys have decided to take this on to focus. It gives us as activists a lot of hope too, just to see young people who are getting involved, learning about these issues, and who are willing to commit to using their voices. So thank you very much, guys. That's really awesome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your time today and all the insights you gave. It really was very enlightening. I learned a lot, and I'm sure you guys learned a lot, right? You can shake your heads. Everybody's muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very
All
much,
right.
Julie.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So, wow, I learned a lot. What did you guys think?
Wonderful.
Thanks for being brave, Zed. You were brave too. Tarek, you asked a good question. So did Riyasat. So did Aram, Mumtahina. Yasin, what happened to your question? What a good question. I typed in my chat box as well to ask you to ask it, but didn't come to it. Anyways, was it enlightening? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything struck you more than other things that you believe you gained from this?
Yeah, we definitely got more information than the articles that we read.
Mm,
I think.
yeah, I wasn't expecting we'll learn this much, to be honest, but we did learn a lot. And that made me think that maybe I was wondering whether I should invite the other lady, but I think I will. It's such a complicated issue. One thing I really wanted to ask her that I didn't was, what is China trying to gain from this, apart from maybe sale of organs and stuff? That's, I understand, but there must be some deeper benefit to this for them.
I was trying to ask that question too.
Why didn't you?
I was raising my hand.
I never saw you raise your hand.
I did.
I just missed it. Sorry. I didn't want to keep her forever. So, but inshallah, next week I'll invite somebody. I'll try to invite the other lady who is an Uyghur. So inshallah, you can ask her then. She might have more personal experiences. Okay, guys, we can take a 10-minute break. Then cool. You said cool. Okay. That is cool. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll just come back and put this information together so we can make a mission statement. Right.
Okay.
Yes, join the Discord call.
All right.
It's free time?
Yes, at your
Break time, break time?
you
Break
go
time?
away. Who took notes? Because I
Back to the class. Oh, what's happening? Okay, so now we want to decide what will be our mission, what will be our end goal, right? So we know we want to raise awareness, but maybe we can be a bit more narrower, or I don't know, let's see. Narrow, I mean like more focused, right? So do you want to raise awareness in California? Do you want to raise awareness among Muslims, non-Muslims, Arabs, non-Arabs, right? It could be, do we want to get people to boycott? Do we want to get people to write to the politicians? Do we want to, what else did she say? What can we do? It was the politicians, it was boycotting. It was like getting the masjids and places to do, starting a chapter, she said, which basically means like starting an awareness team, an ongoing awareness team at a particular, just an ongoing awareness team. It could be part of your school, part of your masjid, part of your city. Okay, so the whiteboard is open. Anybody can write there. Oh, how about we do this in breakout rooms? Would that be better? You guys do better in breakout rooms, I've noticed. What are we doing? Tariq?
Wait, what? No, I didn't ask anything.
No, I'm asking you. What are we doing?
We're going into breakout rooms to discuss like what we should do about it. Like
Yeah.
how we are gonna
So not what we like. It might be that what you do is make videos. It might be you do workshops. Or it might be whatever, right? So not what you will do, but what will be your goal.
Okay.
What is the end goal, right? So then we can make, we just identifying what is our end goal right now. What is our mission right now? And then we are going to come up with ideas on how we'll achieve that goal. Do you guys understand the difference? So our end goal could be that we want to make people write to every single politician all across America, right? Or it could be we want people in California to write to their local representatives, right? So then there could be multiple ways to do that you go about doing that. It could be going door to door, it could be making videos, it could be campaigning online. There could be lots of different ways to do that. So we're just trying to come up with a goal right now. So, okay, I don't remember. You're asking me to make the teams as same as last time, but I don't remember what were the teams last time. I think Riyasat, Zaid, right? Riyasat and Zaid were in the same team.
I was with Tariq.
Yes.
Samin, Shamin, and
Aladdin.
you were, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Me, Tariq, and Shadad.
Aladdin, who are you with?
He was with us.
Bub.
Who's Bub?
Zaid.
Zaid. Okay.
Zaid.
And Zaid, you were with Aladdin?
No, Aladdin was with me, Tariq, and Sharmeen.
Tariq. And the person who's saying me is who?
Shadad.
Shadad. Okay. Habiba. And Bub. Who's with? Yasin, where were you? Last time.
What do you mean?
Who was Yasin with? Does anybody remember? Dead. In last time in the breakout room, Shamin. Oh, sorry.
I was with Zed and Tariq and Riyasat and Mahi.
What?
Oh.
Last week. This guy.
I think I've got it right. Rushvik, turn on your camera. I'm sorry, I cannot allow this in class. Rushvik, I've been asking you constantly for a long time. And this, apart from being a little bit disrespectful, is against the rules of the class. So I would appreciate if you turn your camera on. Otherwise, I can't let you in the class. If you keep your camera off and I allow you that, then slowly everybody will start doing that. And then the class will be total chaos. So I can't make an exception for one person. When you go to a real class with people, people can see your face. These guys have seen you, right? It's not like you wear niqab in public. So there's no, I don't see there is any need to be shy here. I appreciate that you're participating, mashallah, despite this. And I really do appreciate that. But you need to understand where I'm coming from too. Okay, debate time. But this is really interesting because what happened? One team came up with writing to politicians, one said petition, and the third team said either write to the politicians or make a petition. So the third team is like, both things are good for them. Oh, they agree with me. Okay, so Zed, do you want to say your mission statement?
Yeah. Mahi, cue the inspiring music stuff, please. Yeah.
No.
Okay, thanks for teamwork. So our mission statement is we want to raise awareness to at least 500 people, and then maybe we can increase afterward, and speak to senators about the bill. Yeah.
I don't want to share my screen.
You don't have to. Yeah.
I can't.
And yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's our
What?
mission
I didn't get that at all.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to raise awareness to at least 500 people who didn't know about it. And then we're going to be sending some petitions out just to see what people think of the situation, and speak to a few senators about the problem and just see what they think and how we can solve the problem.
That's a lot of and.
Oh, I'm not going to say comma.
Which one do you want to focus on out of these three ends? Basically,
yeah. Raising awareness to at least 500 people.
By a petition or writing letters?
No, petition.
Petition?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we don't have a debate, do we?
So we're debate.
Because everybody said petition then.
Okay.
That's what you said,
Hey,
Tariq.
goodbye debate.
Yeah, we have
Looking forward to that anyway.
Hey, Swami.
Wait, what should the petition be about? I know it's not part of the goal, but like, what should it be about?
Okay, Mumtahina, do you want to talk about that?
I think we should make the petition on which we're going to use it.
Unmute yourself.
We came up with the idea that to look at different petitions that already exist, and then find a problem that hasn't been mentioned or like hasn't been that doesn't exist yet, and then create a petition out of that.
Yeah. So look at the existing petitions, see what are they not addressing, what is still missing, and make a petition about that.
Oh, okay.
I think one thing might be, I don't know, like this boycotting thing, I think that's a great idea. And I also think, like, this is my opinion, this is didn't come from you all. And maybe this is more of an idea that can fit into your plans. But I think given what one thing that you all have uniquely with compared to other teams is you are in one location. So you are in the same city, you belong to the same school, so you have the power of the school with you, right? Your principal registered you. So when you guys now do something, your principal will support you in that, right? And
There's
you
a
have
lot.
huh?
Okay, never mind, never mind. I was gonna say there's a lot of petitions about like stop buying goods from China already.
Right. So okay, then maybe that's not a good idea then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can look at what maybe a petition about writing letters to about this, or I don't know. This might be something we have to research a bit more on. I have never looked at any petition, to be honest, on this issue. Never came across on my feed, so I don't know about it.
What about sending letters to like senators?
Yeah, I liked how specific you were, Zed. Your team was, your group was, is in that we want to address to put pressure on 2 politicians. So you had 2 people in mind clearly. So that's good. That's really specific that we're gonna get people to put pressure on these 2 particular people. Then we can be really focused on that. And then you will be able to see at the end of the day, well, did that make any difference? Or did actually people wrote? How many did they write to these people? You didn't do anything most of the time, huh? Bub? I gave you too much time. Next time I'll give you very little time. If that's what happened. Okay. So yeah, I think a good idea when you're thinking of ideas might be to do like an awareness group in your community. Mahi said that, no, Shadad said that. One of the things was getting the imam to make announcements and things like that.
That was me.
Shadad, no? Shameen?
Yeah.
Shameen?
Yeah, but Shameen was like too scared to say it, so I'd say it for
That was a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Shameen. I gave your credit to somebody else. I'm glad you took it back. No, I really like that. Okay. What time is it? 10 minutes left. Okay. So that's about it. If you're gonna do petitions, you're gonna Google about petitions, what's going on, what hasn't been done. So next week we are finally going to now brainstorm ideas, and then we start acting on it. So that's inshallah going to be a really fun session because brainstorming is fun. It's really creative, and inshallah we'll come up with lots of these different ideas that you were all getting, whether it's social media, whether it's masjid, whether it is, I don't know, standing on a pole and waving a flag. I don't know what you come up with, but we'll do that. Now, did everybody watch videos? Yes. I read some of this. Well, we have the week 0 and week 1 winners. That doesn't mean you're winning a prize, but that tells you where you stand. So you can check that on Teams, those announcements. And the score keeps on adding. Now we will do our favorite thing, that is legging kit. So
No.
today, yeah.
People keep on freezing me. Like more.
Yeah, now they're gonna really freeze you because we'll play. Did we play team mode last time or classic?
No, we did team mode last time.
I'll do classic. Everybody
I remember because Violet team froze me twice.
I want to do team mode. I got carried.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, you are welcome.
Oh, and my computer died.
That carried me.
We're not doing team mode.
I was also.
Nobody can carry you now. You have to get your own credit
Stop
this time.
spending the money.
What was it? Oh. No one's using my name. No,
Riyad.
don't want to use my name.
Kahoot.
Zed is short. Bob said they've used your nickname as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have stuff against me. I don't even know what I did.
You are brave.
Oh my god.
How?
Well, are you in this drawing thing? Are you on this drawing thing?
Lubna, Sultana, Adiba, come on.
Why you
Bub
guys
the
have
second.
we
We have lots of bubs.
Master Keys.
Zed. One game you guys should have it. Everybody's called Zed.
That sounds really likely for some reason. I feel like that's gonna be every single game.
Bob is greater than Bob. Yeah, probably. How many people there? 15? 14. So one more person.
One,
Is anybody
two,
else
three,
joining?
4, 5. Wait, 1, 2.
I'm gonna start. The last person can still join in.
5 people.
You can still join in, whoever is the person who hasn't joined. 17923 is the pin. I think everybody's joined now. 15. Master Cheese. Ramisa is winning. Zed is short at number 2.
What? I didn't even do anything yet. I'm confused.
That's Zed is short. Are you Zed is short?
Oh, no. Never mind. Why would I say I'm short? That sounds really stupid of me.
Exactly. That's what I thought. You are not that Zed. Adiba at number 2. Maliha number 3. All the Zads at the bottom now.
You guys are ruining my reputation. Thanks a lot.
Yasin at first place. Master Yasin like, what? I'm at first place. Still maintaining his lead, Yasin. Adiba at second place.
I froze
Bob
you.
iced
Let's say
Adiba.
that.
Master Cheese.
What did I ever do to you, Zed?
You froze me last time. Back to
I
back.
did not.
Yes, you did. Stop lying.
Yasin is still maintaining his lead.
I hate this game. Why can't I just beat the hoop?
Zedu takes the lead. Zed blurred Zedu. Oh, Zeds are fighting now. This is the Clone Wars. Zed Wars. Yasin is number 2. Zedu at first place. Lubna at third place.
Where are you?
Zed. Oh, Adiba blurred Bub. Oh, revenge.
Thanks a lot.
But
I
that
really-
revenge
No
cost
problem.
Adiba too much, and she has dropped to 11th place.
Yes.
It's better than the ISO you used on your last turn.
Zedu is maintaining his lead. Bub, the second, has come to the second place. Yasin still in the top 3, third place. And now second place. Bub is greater than Bob. Third place. Mr. So, 9th place. Let's see who is at the bottom. Zed is short. Last place. Zed, second last place. Bob, 13th place.
Wow. I suck.
Oh, Yasin has been like in the top 3 the whole time. People have come and gone. Yasin has stayed there. MashaAllah. Zedu first place. 1.5 minutes left. Oh, Yasin just dropped to 4th place. Bub the second has taken the third place. There, this shot is coming back at fifth place. Master Cheese attacked Zedu.
I officially hate this game. I like Kahoot more.
Why? Is it because you're losing?
Partly, that's part of the reason. Now I'm just gonna freeze everyone I see.
$25 seconds left. Oh. Zedu at first place. Bub is greater than Bob, second place. Oh, just dropped. Eighth place. Zed is short, second place. Third place, Bub the second.
I didn't get carried. I got third.
Sorry?
I got
third.
first, boys.
I didn't get carried.
I came back. I came back.
All the Zeds.
All the Zeds. That's right. Zed
Red
wins
powers.
it. Great, Zed. You can
I
claim
got
victory.
13th though, so.
So who is Zedu?
Yeah, I saw it.
Who is Zedu?
Well, my mom calls me that, but in this.
Zedu is Riyasat.
Riyasat. Okay.
Okay, at least we have set up my reputation.
So actually, Zed,
I
you
came
can
back. I came back.
because you win it. In the end, you
Yeah,
get the first place, you get the second place, and you get the third place. You are Zed.
I got you, Zed. You owe us.
No, but you can claim victory, Zed. Take the credit. It's your name.
Yeah, I was in. That was me. Totally.
Exactly. You win and you lost.
Actually, I'm gonna keep the just one.
Okay, let me just see the report. Who actually has the most correct answers? Not just the most money. Adiba 91%. Bob greater than Bob 92%. Ramisa 91%. And Zedu, well, Zedu really did deserve the win. Is got 92% correct. Well done. Riyasat?
You like at every place.
Okay. Well done, Riyasat. Okay. Jazakallah khair. See you all next week. Just research about the solutions now, ideas, what's happening out there on social media. What are people actually doing? What's working? What's not working? What are the petitions going on? Who are the politicians working on this? Get more into the ideas now. Okay? Be ready to brainstorm. Let's do it next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.